Today's spooky spot, we're having a look at the McFarlane toys, The X-Files, Agent Fox Mulder. This is Series 1 Fox Mulder. Now, we've kind of already had a look at Mulder and Scully that each came with stretchers. Now, there was a second line where it's essentially really the exact same figure, but they gave us these chamber pods with them. Now, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I was talking about before, where they really just mixed and matched packaging. For example, I'm just going to put the Mulder right there with the chamber, and I'm going to reach off camera. I'm just going to bring in Series 1, but they've slightly changed the packaging. And we have Parka Scully, which I'll show in a separate video. But you can see how she comes also with the chamber. So depending on how you got these, there was a Parka Mulder that came with an alien. There was a Parker Mulder that came with the chamber. And then they kind of just mixed and matched suits. So for example, sadly Spot never got the chamber that actually had the dressed Dana Scully. Instead, the only one I have is the one that came with the Parka Scully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hold off on doing a review of her until we have a look at the Mulder in Parka, and then that way I'll show you guys the two figures as those figures were with their Parka jackets on. So having said that, let's just have a look at the standalone Mulder. Again, that came with the chamber here. The chamber actually was a relatively complex piece. Not the most, well, it was a frustrating piece. I'll get into that when we get this opened up. But the top of the package features Mulder and Scully from the Fight the Future first movie. Recommended for ages 5 and up. This is Ultra action figures coming to us from the folks over at McFarlane Toys. On the back of the package, Mulder and Scully. And the, I guess, we'll do the read-up on Mulder because technically we're not really looking at Scully, but the read-up on Mulder says, Oxford-educated, brilliant, and driven, Agent Fox Mulder was one of the leading investigators on the Violent Crimes Division of the FBI until he requested transfer to the obscure area of the bureau known as the X-Files. There he earned the reputation as the renegade agent investigating cases which the FBI deemed unexplained due to their paranormal nature. But Mulder quickly learned that the X-Files were cases that the government did not want solved, and forces within the government would go to any length to ensure that these cases remained a mystery. Compelled by his belief that his sister was abducted by aliens when he was 12 years old, Mulder is willing to risk everything to find out what he desires the most, the truth. Also advertised down below, the X-Files, the album's soundtrack. Album score by Mark Snow. What I am going to do is take a break. We're going to get this opened up. Now, again, technically, we've already kind of looked at the business suit Mulder. But really, we're going to be having a look more so at the pod that comes along with Mulder. So there's definitely more terrifying heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. So your contents, you'll get yourself the Mulder figure as well as the pod, the little chamber pod. I keep saying pod. It's basically just like a little chamber tomb, I guess if you want to call it that. There is some assembly that's required, and luckily at least you get, see, even there, they say pod connection assembly. Nah. So it shows you how to take the supplied pieces, which is basically just a floor piece. And there are 2 pegs and 2 peg holes. So you take those and you connect them together like so. This just sits in the front, just like that. Then you get these little side pieces, and how those work is there's a little connector point on the underside, and you take that, connect it like so, and then this piece will connect to if you had more than one, you would connect them one after the other. Oh, and actually, you know what? Spot's put it the wrong way. This goes just like that. And you get something that looks like that. And then this piece would go connect to the next chamber pod, And realistically, you could have had like a whole row of these. They're neat looking, that if you had collected more than one of them, yeah, sure, you could have had like a whole wall of them. That is in case, until the X-Files toys no longer become popular, and then all of a sudden you're the guy that has a whole room of these. Initially thinking that they were cool, maybe not so much cool anymore. Before we have a look at that, let's have a look at Mulder. The only accessory that he comes with is a flashlight, which is actually the same flashlight that he came with the stretcher Mulder. So we can just take that and put it into his hand, just like so. Now the difference is, one interesting thing to note with the Mulder, it is, yeah, the exact same figure as, this one right here, which is the one that came with the stretcher. The only difference is, though, look at the flashlights. One flashlight is possibly off, or potentially using black lights. The other one is with a yellow light. The faces are a little bit different. Let's investigate further. They're the exact same face, but you can see that this one, the one that came with the pod, has a much more alive flesh color versus the partially dead Mulder that we've got with the stretcher. Aside from that, though, it's the exact same figure. And even though the faces are slightly painted differently, yeah, same exact figure. There's nothing different at all with them. Now, I thought, when I was initially collecting these, and I collected a lot of the X-Files figures, I thought there was actually variations to his suit as well, where I think there was a blacker suit of Mulder available, where it wasn't just the blue kind of navy suit that he's got sporting here. Equally so, I think I also mentioned when we had a look at the stretcher Mulder and Scully, there was a different version of Scully as well with a slightly different color scheme. But the downside, though, and I'll just move this Mulder off because, well, it's the same figure. The only downside with this line, though, is, you know, seeing so many different variations for the exact same figure. You know, as a completionist, I initially, and I sold what I had a long time ago, but initially I had, I think, Mulder and Scully with the stretchers. And actually, just so you're wondering, there's the stretcher there from the first Mulder and Scully we were looking at. I had the Mulder and Scully that came with the stretcher. I had Mulder and Scully that both came with the pod. I think I had Mulder and Scully both with the parka jackets and with the pods. And then we had the alien sets. I'll show you guys those in another video. I think between the two pieces, two kind of accessories that come with the Mulder and Scully, I think I like the stretcher more. The stretcher just kind of gets a little more mileage to it. The pod is okay, but it's, other than it looks neat, but I think like this stretcher especially, I can use with so many other pieces. And one of the things I mentioned actually with the first time we had a look at this figure, this video, I even said, like, this stretcher would be perfect for like a Jason Voorhees display. You know, you could kind of do Jason Voorhees, beginning Jason Voorhees from the morgue at the beginning of part 4. You could kind of have him on the stretcher. You could also do, even though we don't have the figure for it, if you had like a Michael Myers, you could put Michael Myers on there, kind of like from Halloween 4. Coincidentally enough, both Halloween 4 and Friday the 13th Part 4 both have opening scenes where the killer is on a stretcher. Coincidence? Possibly. But again, you factor in the fact that the stretcher can open up and you can do a little bit more to it. I don't know, I just think it's a neater looking accessory versus the pod. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this just because we've already kind of had a look at that. We've also opened this guy up. This is just the extra one that I had with Scully. I'm just going to put that to the side. Okay, so when it comes to Mulder, we've kind of been there, done that. I won't spend too much time on the Mulder himself. His articulation is the same. Swivel in the head, swiveled arms. This one hand swivels. This other hand swivels. This arm also swivels, which I'm not keen on. Some McFarlane toy pieces where some joints have movement, some joints don't, or vice versa. Like if you're going to put it here, I kind of wish they'd had something on this side too. His waist also swivels, and that's it. That's it. He still kind of has that wet look to it, kind of same way that the other Mulder did. Kind of weird wet look on his outfit. But there you have Mulder. To be honest, it's been a bit since Spot reviewed the other one, so I don't really remember what I rated Mulder. So I think I'll just leave the rating off because I don't want to give him too high or too low versus what I had already given the other Mulder. But the meat and potatoes of this particular review is the pod. It's painted pretty neat. I mean, it's got like, kind of looks like it's got like an aged, rusted look to the front brackets or the front hinges that hold the door. The door also has like a translucent plastic grain to it with kind of this speckled look on it. I mean, from a distance, it's a really like show-stopping piece. I also kind of look at it, it kind of reminds me for some reason of The Matrix. Just, to me, has that vibe of The Matrix, or something like Aliens. So equally so, while you were using the stretcher maybe for other things, you never know, maybe you could even use this as a nice, you know, display if you had, because I mean, these figures are dirt cheap, like dirt cheap. You could go on eBay and you probably get like, maybe the whole set, I don't know, for like $50, $60. But I mean, if you had a couple of these, you know, you could kind of put together a really neat alien diorama, like a little couple of pods next to each other. You have the Colonel Marines, and you know, you could have the aliens and stuff like that. That'd be a really neat looking display. Now, above and beyond the fact that it's just a showpiece, it does actually open up as well. You just take these doors, hinge them open, and ooh, you got some rubbery guy inside. Slightly different. Let me reach off camera again. Slightly different from the one that was in the body bag, where it had this really weird kind of grape jelly on his back. Unlike him, he's different. Like, this one is different. And what's interesting about it is that it's rubbery. Let's bring the camera in so you guys see what I'm talking about. It's rubbery, but you can see like all his organs inside. You can see like the bones. You can see like the veins, the little organs. The only thing that really isn't translucent is the front of his face. It's more so painted in. But the back still shows all the little see-through areas of the human body. Kind of gross. It's not posable or anything like that either. It's just a rubbery, flexible body. It's his face, or its face, or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure it was a man at one point. His face is okay. I kind of wish that they had just kept this idea up here as well, and you could have maybe seen his brains and his eyeballs and stuff like that. But it's a neat piece. It connects to his mouth. I think you can actually, yeah, you can pull it out and you can remove this guy altogether. So if you don't want him part of the chamber, you don't have to do that. You can leave him out. You can just kind of throw him. I didn't throw him. He's still in my hand. I didn't throw him. But you know, he's neat. He's all right. If it was like this down, very cool. Face painted though, not as neat. But if you didn't want him, you could just close the chamber door and you just still have, you know, you just have just the pod on its own. By the way, the one thing I don't like also about the pod, I'll just connect him because I want to prove a point here. Spots out to prove a point. Plug that into place. He doesn't clip anywhere. Like, there's nothing on the backs of his feet that allow him to clip to anything. There is like a quasi ledge on the floor piece, but he doesn't actually, he doesn't clip to anything. The downside though, as I pull the camera back slightly, there we go. The downside to the pod though is because there's no back to it, the guy doesn't have anything to lean against. You could use the argument really that it's going to be standing upright. It wouldn't really matter, but I wish there was at least a support or something on the back of it. So as it goes for the Mulder with the pod, I like it, and the more I look at it now while I'm doing this review, I think it would be a neat setup for, again, if you want to do like a big alien diorama. Really neat, very inexpensive to pick up these guys now. But I think if I had the choice between the Mulder and the pod, or Mulder and, say, the stretcher, I probably would lean a little more to Mulder and the stretcher, just because you can get a lot more mileage out of it. Pod's cool, stretcher a little bit cooler. Today's spooky spot, we were having a look at another X-Files figure. We're having a look today at Mulder with the containment pod. I kind of wish I still had first of all, I still had some of the original X-Files figures that I had like way back when. But yeah, I mean, they're neat, and they're a really inexpensive collection to start. Like, if you want to start collecting these right now, I kid you not, you could go on eBay, you can get them for next to nothing. Stay tuned, guys. stay tuned. Spot's going to have a lot more spooky spots in your way as we're going to be continuing our looks at the X-Files figures. Thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you guys next time.